Hey, it's your boy, Dustin from the Flying Chair. It's the Rise Podcast. And today I got a special guest, Rachel. And this girl is super dope. And she's got so much shit going on. And she's getting recognized and making a name for herself. And I had to have her on my show so I could talk about her and what she's got going on. She has a podcast and she's an investigator, UFO enthusiast. And yeah, today we're just gonna kick the shit. So, Rachel,
Yeah, let's do
can you
it.
tell us a little bit about yourself and where you grew up and how you got into the paranormal?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, so originally I'm from the San Francisco Bay Area, um, practically all my life. It wasn't until 2019 I moved out here to Nashville, which of
Mm,
course is like a culture shock, but
sure.
but it turned out to be, I think, a really, rewarding experience. I think all the way around. For me, it really got me like delved into the world of the paranormal much more than being at home, I guess, in California. But I've grown up just like I don't even know from like the youngest the years I can remember. I've always been into paranormal stuff. So um, whether it be UFO stuff or aliens, cryptids, like I'm all about it. But my world these days is more kind of like in the paranormal, like ghosts. So that's kind of what I like to do is do paranormal investigating. But yeah, I do have a lot of irons in the fire, so to speak, because I've got like I co-host a podcast called The Know with Tom Reed, and we focus a little bit on everything, but a lot of it's UFO related, paranormal stuff. But
Sure, sure.
yeah,
Just like my podcast. We
yeah,
mainly focus around UFOs, but we dabble in everything else because I feel like we all kind of feel like it's a connected in some way, even with a ghost
oh
to Bigfoot to like
yeah.
everything has. I feel like Earth is the Disneyland of the galaxy. Like there's just too much shit going
That
on. you know,
I
Earth
know,
or
and
the
that's why I like having a conversation with really open-minded people because
Mhm,
like everything is possible. Like,
mhm.
why wouldn't it be?
Yeah,
I mean, we essentially are the creators of our own like reality.
sure.
So there's there's definitely been some interesting things I think that, definitely cross with like the paranormal versus like with UFOs, with Bigfoot, like with ghosts. I think like, something that might kind of encompass them all might be something multidimensional.
Sure,
Um, but
sure.
I
And
know
even
that's,
and even having our own personal experiences too.
oh yeah,
You know. So could you tell us maybe one of like maybe the first encounters with a ghost or something that you
yeah,
just couldn't explain?
yeah. So I was pretty young when I had like my first experience with the ghosts. It was actually after my grandfather passed away, and I was
Mhm.
at my grandmother and grandfather's house, and I was staying the night with my grandmother, and I came out to the living room one morning after sleeping, and there it looked like there was a person standing in the curtains.
Oh,
And I
like an
was like,
aspirate.
and so I was like, I was probably like, I was young. I was probably like 8 years old, something like that. And I'm like going, Grandma, 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 there's somebody in the curtains. And she comes out to the living room and she just goes, it's Grandpa. Grandpa, you need to go. You're scaring Rachel. And I was just like, after that, it just like sort of like dissipate, like it just fizzled down and just left.
Oh,
So that was kind of like my very first experience into
oh
something that
wow.
was like, yeah, truly where I was like, oh my God. And my grandmother acted like, it's no big deal. It's just grandpa, he comes here a lot, he visits, like it's no biggie, and I was like, oh, it
Yeah,
just
no,
shook
it
my
fucked me up a
world
little
up.
bit. Yeah, right.
And
Especially if you
then
see a whole vision of the ghost too. Like you see, like from head to toe, him standing in that sheets there or the curtains.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. It totally just looked like a person standing in the curtains. And I was like, "Ugh, that's a little weird." Uh, but then fast forward to like I was in between like 15, 16, and I was over at my friend's house, and her parents were divorced, and we like went to like her dad's, and her dad got remarried and she had a stepmom, and this was like a really older house for California. It's nothing like it is like even out here in Nashville, much, much older, but um, it was still like a Spanish style house. It had some history to it, maybe late 1800s, early 1900s. And they were telling me about like my friend who had um like they thought was an imaginary friend because she was always talking to something, which they were like, oh, she's a little girl, she's just playing with her imaginary friend. And she was like, no, it's not imaginary, this isn't. She would say like, no, this person's real, this person's real. And they were just like, wouldn't like believe her until later on when weird things started happening to them, when there were things like objects that they would be looking for were being like moved or misplaced. They would just be gone and then they'd end up somewhere else. And they were like, what the heck, is going on? And as we're like, it was myself and I think two other friends that were there. And we were kind of like standing in like her living room and sort of like a half circle listening to like her dad and stepmother tell us the story. And I was standing on one end, and all of a sudden I just feel like a tap on the shoulder. And I was like, like what the heck was that? And I was like looking all around, and I asked my friend next to me, I'm like, did you tap me on the shoulder? And she was like, how am I going to reach around and tap you on the shoulder? She's like, you would have seen me do that. Like it would have been obvious. And I was like, all right, I think I need to leave. Because I was like, okay, that's not cool. I was like, don't touch
Wow.
me. Don't touch me.
Yeah.
But
Well,
since
that's
then, like I've
eerie.
had just like I've had multiple experiences even before coming out here to Tennessee and joining a paranormal team. When I
Yeah.
would go,
Yeah.
whenever my husband and I would go on vacation, we would
Oh,
always
cool.
choose locations that were haunted or that I wanted to visit because they had some reported hauntings. And so I would just we would just go there. Like we even actually did like the Winchester Mystery House in San Jose.
Oh, well. Okay. Is that one of your first
We
investigations or
No,
okay.
they won't allow people to technically like investigate there.
Sure, sure. I was gonna ask you one of the first investigations, and who is this team of people? Are you still with this team of people? Or are you doing it
I'm
more
not with
solo?
the original. Yeah, I
Okay.
kind of left them and went kind of out on my own
Sure, sure, sure.
and
Okay.
started kind of my own with my she's actually my coworker at work, and
Huh.
we kind of became really, close friends and stuff. So and I would tell her about all of the different, experiences of being in the investigations with this other team, and I got her to join us for a couple different investigations, like with the other team at the end. And, she kind of like became hooked. And she was like, when we were just talking about it at lunchtime and stuff, and she was like, she was like, if you want to do this, we'll do this. She was like, I'm all in, she was like, if you want to start your own team. And I was like, well, it's not a like a cheap hobby to have. It's pretty costly to have like buy all of this
Yeah.
equipment to investigate with.
Yeah.
And so, oh my gosh, but she was like, yeah, I'm ready. Like let's do it.
Wow.
But yeah, I've been in a huge number of like, especially out here in Tennessee, because we have access to so many sites that have so much history, especially like Civil War era
Wow.
things that have happened.
Yeah, yeah.
So we've done like Brushy Mountain, which was a state penitentiary
Mhm.
that is hugely it's pretty well known as being a haunted location. It's one of the most haunted in Tennessee. And that was wicked crazy because we had so many things happen where we heard like footsteps, we heard like even things being thrown in the cell, like
Oh,
we were outside like investigating in front of like a row of cells, and it was like we heard what sounded like either rocks or something that were inside, because it hasn't been a prison for a while, so there's all these different kind of like, it's kind of falling apart a little bit.
sure, sure.
Say it's not being upkept the way it was before when people were actually imprisoned there. And so like paint's coming off the walls, and there's like debris all over the place. And so what sounded like somebody threw something inside the cells, which were
Okay,
like,
that's crazy.
yeah, and we got it, on recording because we're just using digital recorders to.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you what tools do you use? Do you have like the ghost boxes, or do you use ghost balls, or just
Yeah.
straight recorders to get the EVPs?
Yeah, like all of the above. We use things like REM pods, digital
Hmm.
recorders, video cameras. We have a thermal camera.
Wow.
Um, we call them cat balls, that they're
Yeah,
like the
yeah, the
little,
ghost. That's why I call them the ghost balls. But yeah, the
yeah,
cat balls. Yeah. Hmm.
yeah, with the cat toys that they really like. And we've seen actually at, what is it, Old South Pittsburgh? They
Hmm.
had a hospital. We investigated there. That was one of our first investigations as like an official like team out on our own. Um, and we had like one of the investigators that was with us. He was inside like one of the patient rooms, and we were all on the outside in the hallway. And he was going from like it wasn't two rooms that are can be like joined together to make one big room. And
Hmm.
so he's on one side of the room, walking to another, and we heard this like wham that hit like the side of the wall, and then all of a sudden, like this cat ball comes rolling out
Oh.
in front of us. It comes rolling out by itself into the hallway, and down the hall it rolls by itself.
Oh,
And the
hell no.
investigator, he was
Have they run
like,
out of there?
he was just like, he didn't even know because he was walking from one place to another, and he said all he heard was like something whiz by him. This thing had enough force to like throw this object hard. And ever
Again,
since then, it became
yeah.
like, the cat ball has like a button that you can push in. Some of
Yep.
them have one
Mhm.
that is like an out, we call it like an outie or an innie. So one button has where it's like raised on the outside, and the other has one where it's on the inside. But this was an outside button ball, but because they threw it so hard, it stuck to where it's now an inside. And so it became
That's
from an outie to an innie.
that's hilarious. Now I was gonna wonder, like, how much energy does it take a ghost to actually move something physical in our realm? Obviously, 'cause I feel
I
like it's
mean, it feels like it has to be a lot because I think for the majority of the time we don't typically see that. We see things that are very subtle. Like you have to really be like listening, and paying attention, because like some of those, like sometimes they're just really soft sounds. Like sometimes there'll be like a soft knock or a very soft voice, and you're not quite sure if you heard it or not. And it's not until maybe you capture it on that digital recorder and play it back and can amplify the sound that you really like truly hear what it's got to say.
yeah,
So it seems like you would have to have so much like energy to be able to make something like that move.
sure,
Like,
sure.
and we don't even know how they do it without like a body, right?
Right. And that's what I'm saying. Like the movie Ghost, I think there's an part in it where he's
Hmm.
like in the subway.
Yep.
He meets another ghost that's kind of
Yep.
trapped in limbo. But
Yep.
he's pushing stuff around and knocking shit over. And he's like, how do you do that? He's like, you get like super
Focus.
concentrate, or like I don't know what he
Yeah,
said, like put feelings into it or something. I don't know. But
exactly.
yeah, he had to learn how to he started small too, like just to move something like super tiny. But
Paper. Yeah. I
then
think the
again,
first thing was like maybe paper. I totally remember that
yeah.
scene.
Hmm.
Or it was like, yeah, the coin. He was trying to get him to
Yeah,
move. He
yes,
kept trying to move the coin, and it was like
yes.
his fingers were going through it
Through
instead
it,
of,
yes.
yeah. But if you can imagine, like, I mean, for that movie Ghost's sake, obviously they made them show them like they had a body, but
Sure,
like I don't know if that's the case. I think that they're just energy.
sure.
Um, that's just my whole, I think my theory behind it is that,
And
you know,
have you ever
because we
heard of?
know what is Einstein's theory says energy cannot be, it can be created but not destroyed,
Yes.
something like
Hmm.
that.
Hmm.
So if we're all made out of energy, which we should be based on the fact that our atoms and everything have energy to them, then, hey,
Yeah,
when we die, then our energy is released and we could just do whatever we want to do. That's what I think.
sure. And there's just so many theories. Like, does our souls just go somewhere else, or do they want do we have a choice that we can wander Earth and kind of have our curiosity of like what we're missing out on Earth, or like you ever heard of stone tape theory?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so that's another
A
one. That's kind of
huge
like
like
that's
I'm a
another.
huge believer in that, and I
Okay,
think
cool. Yeah,
just
because I
because
I
of our
recently learned that.
experiences.
Yeah, I recently learned about that theory, and I was like, whoa, that blew my mind away. I was like, I never thought about it that way, where instead of like a ghost kind of trapped in a house because they're just trapped in limbo, it's kind of like their imprint is left on the walls or whatever fuck. And we go inside this room and we activate this spirit or whatever remnants of the spirit that kind of gives us kind
Hmm.
of a flash of what they used to do or something like that, or
Right.
their last moments, like
Right.
I don't know. I think that was like, whoa. When I heard that for the first time, I was like, whoa, that blew my fucking mind. That's like, it makes more sense because I feel it was kind of sad for a ghost that they'd be trapped in this fucking room or trapped in that fucking doll or something like that. Like, Jesus Christ, that's horrible in a sense.
Yeah,
But again,
exactly.
there is evidence of that too, of these things that do stick around. And again, it makes you wonder if they just have this choice of their maybe is this crazy jealousy of the living, where just like, oh damn it, I still feel alive. And these ghosts that like we're just talking about, like wanted to fucking move that coin so fucking bad, where like
Yeah.
there's something about us in general that wants to be alive, even when we're fucking dead still. Like you think the
Yeah,
Egyptians
because you had
too,
this like
like wrapping up the
physical,
mummies and shit. They're like, holy
I
shit.
know, well, you have this like physical body, or you had this physical body, and
Yeah.
you had so much energy because of you were in this physical space, but
Mhm.
now it's just, as
Are
a
you a believer in
energy,
reincarnation too?
totally.
Sure. Yeah. Because there's a lot of cases of children talking about like, yeah, I was shot down in World War II and my beef
Yeah.
is 17 and it's like shit. Or there's a famous case in India where
Yeah.
this 5-year old like
Yep.
talks to her family and says, I was actually had another family in another village not too far from here. And she starts rattling off these names of people. And they're like, there's no way. And their parents are kind of blown away, like, okay, then show us. And they go up to this door and she knocks and she's like, hey, you used to be my husband. Your name is blah, blah, blah. This is my
Yeah.
mother-in-law, my cousins. And like, and this family actually like kind of adopts her, not like actually has her back, but like she's just welcome to the house anytime because they
Yeah.
know that's her soul that came, that was once with them. I was just like, damn, that's crazy too.
Yeah. I totally remember that story, that
Mhm.
whole, yeah. That, what was her name? Like Devi
Oh,
something,
I
but
wouldn't know.
yeah. Yeah, but both of those stories were that one kid who, talks about him being like
Shot
totally
down.
remembering, yeah, being in
Mhm.
the military and that he flew that particular plane and like how would he know these things? Like, and he used to draw them when he was little, and he'd be drawing like, planes shooting down and like fire all around the plane and
Sure, sure.
like you're like,
And yeah,
how?
and it's crazy too that like they when they get older, they lose this memory of their past, or like, it makes you wonder too if like we are reincarnated, and even like our young 1 year old, 2 year old brain, we can't remember half the shit we did back then, but we could have remembered like our past lives or something like that. Like, what the fuck are we now? you know,
I know.
it's
Well, it just like I said, like I think you have to have an open mind because there are so many things that could be
yes,
possible. Um, and I don't see why not. I
yes,
mean, the world is a very weird place, and I don't think I think we don't even know only maybe just a couple of percent of of what is true.
sure.
Um,
Yeah. Like even
but
our ocean's mysterious as fuck.
well,
Like
we
no,
know more about space than right now than we do it's
yeah,
in the bottom of our oceans.
that's
So
crazy and scary, you know?
yeah, I mean, that's why they discovered wasn't like the giant squid was only like
Oh
they
yeah.
thought that giant squid. They were like, oh, we theorized there's this ginormous squid that lives down there, but we've never seen him. And then all of a sudden, somebody I think
Close one
see
up.
by accident ends up, yeah,
Yeah.
pulling them up, and they're like, oh my god,
Well,
he
yeah, even
exists.
the squid and the octopus are so mysterious of like their origins, because they don't
Like
have like
alien.
they don't have fossil records, and then there's scientists that even think it's like panspermia, where they get
Mm-hmm.
like an asteroid brought them here thousands millions of years ago. And it makes sense too, because they're so fucking smart and weird. Like they can fit through the tiniest things. It's just like,
Yeah, and they have like they can also, camouflage, which is
yes,
really weird.
totally
And they
change
also like,
form.
yep, and they can regenerate too. I think that they're
Hmm.
able to like if something happens to a tentacle or something, they're just like, oh, okay, I'll just grow a new one. No, no biggie.
Yeah. And you think
They're very
that, and
weird.
like I think a lot of, I think there's maybe, I don't know, jellyfish that live up to. I think there's like the immortal jellyfish. I think that's
Hmm.
called. They're
Yeah,
just
the ones that
going and
keeps
going and
like,
going.
yeah, that keeps like just
Why
regenerating
did
its
the
own
humans tap
cells.
into their DNA and throw that into us?
I think that's why like they're trying, I think scientists are trying to figure out like how animals are able to do this
Well,
and
maybe
why
that's
can't we?
why that's why the Japanese signed that patent about like human slash animal experiments, like blending them or like making hybrids. Kind of like an island of Dr. Moreau type shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, so we got some monsters out there in cages,
Hmm.
half human, half beast.
Well, mythological times, right? They had
Exactly.
like centaurs and
Yes.
like Medusa that was like a gorgon that had snakes that coming out of her
Yeah,
head, and
that's
even
true.
like what in the Garden of Eden, there was a serpent that was like kind of like man too. It was like in between man and
And we got
reptile.
like the mermaids in the
Yeah,
bottom of the ocean.
mermaids too.
I think we have ETs in the bottom of the ocean since the dawn of time, making crazy sea creatures and half man, half beast things. You're right,
Yeah,
because yeah,
they
agree. Why would we have these stories worldwide of
it's
these
true.
creatures of like um half man, half reptiles or beasts of some sort? Yeah,
Yeah.
it's endless.
It's crazy. Yeah, it's kind of like I know that there was like a story about how they were thinking like not only, well they know that the flood that happened around maybe the years of like Noah or whatever
Hmm.
um really happened. There was like the huge deluge that overtook the earth, but they were saying that maybe Noah's Ark, saying they had to have two of every animal. Maybe it wasn't physical animal, but it was actually the DNA of
Yes,
the animal so that they could
correct. Correct.
recreate, and
That makes more sense.
I mean,
It definitely
that's what
does.
we would do, right? Now, like
Yeah.
nowadays. So what's to say that like technology it wasn't lost over time. Like
Yeah,
even
exactly.
like the technology for a few hundred years ago is like, well, what
Yeah.
happened to
What
those people? Like we
again,
built over them.
the pyramids to the blocks that ball back, and yeah, the technology. And again, I'm not saying aliens made these things, but gave man technology and was kind of side
We're
by
taught.
side with them because they were sketching on the walls at the same time that were given the gifts from the gods at the same time. And yeah, the stories are just endless. I don't know where I was going with that.
But it's true. It is
Yeah,
very true. How like I don't know. I think that they're definitely maybe they didn't like, actually build those things, but they taught how to build. They
taught
were the
and was
teachers.
given the technology to borrow. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because
Oh, yeah. And then
if you
take it
look,
with them.
I'm like, what healthy slave are you whipping in the back to drag 80 tons boulders across different terrains?
It's not going to
And you look
happen.
at their toolbox and it's dental floss and chicken bones, and you're like, what the fuck is going on?
Well, that would work in my normal 9 to 5 job because I work in a dental
Oh,
practice.
they
So
do really?
get some.
That is
I got
funny.
plenty of dental floss.
But
But
again,
yeah,
just like
exactly.
right, it just like doesn't make sense to me.
No, what makes more sense is, yeah, having some sort of, maybe sound technology or
Sure.
that helps levitate.
Yes.
That would be, and I mean, it's just gone. It's just lost to time, and like it'll just happen. I mean, it happens over a few hundred years. Like, do we have any of the technology that was from even back during
No.
the Roman times? There's not a lot that's left, right? All we have is ruins.
Again,
So can you imagine even from like who would have our technology now a few hundred years from now?
yeah.
They'll
It
be
just it's
like
just
far
like back.
ahead
It's
and we'll
just
be antiquated
the
and
buildings just are just backwards in time. I feel like that's the stuff that you see in the past should have been the future of building, right? Because we have the
mm-hmm.
technology enough to just simply use those big ass blocks because we can. And then we look at the past, and again, the toolbox and then the stuff that, with technology. No, I'm I'm sorry, it does not add up. And
No.
then I hate that their stories get mythanized, and that's sad because they do talk a fair deal of what each god had different talents doing, especially in ancient India. You know, they
Mm-hmm.
had
Yep.
like 200 gods come down with blue skin and multi-talented and different things, but they had to use vehicles to go to A to B, and that's called the Vimana. And it kind of
Yep.
started a cargo cult after they left, because after they left, they started building their temples out of the shape of Vimana.
Yes, exactly.
And like,
Exactly. And that's like the one of the oldest, I mean, Hinduism, one of the oldest religions still
yeah,
that's practiced to this day. And they worship, like Ganesh, who was that big, the elephant that had
yeah,
like multiple
exactly.
arms, and you had what, Shiva, the destroyer, and
Yeah,
the destroyer of
and,
worlds.
and I guess their holy books had so much detail of like the
Yeah.
wars they had. The gods
Yep.
are actually having wars with each other. It's like nuclear
Right.
bombs and
By
shit.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then they have even like blueprints in their
Yep. I was just
Bibles
gonna say,
in
yep.
the Vimanas of like how to
Yeah.
fucking build these things with like mercury and fucking like
Yeah.
different
There was
elements to get the ship floating and shit.
Yeah, and there was even like I think there was a engineer who took those blueprints and
He
actually
did.
did
He
like a
did before the
model,
he
and they
did.
were able to find out that it was aerodynamic,
Yes.
that it was flyable.
Yeah. Some guy in India 25 years before the Wright brothers flew anything in the sky. This guy took I forgot his name. Some Hindu dude
And
took the
yeah.
holy texts of and just the blueprints and just went along and did it. And they have a
Hmm.
picture of it. I wish I had it here. I can display it. I don't. But yeah, I can find it online sometime. But yeah, he's going over the sea over a boat, and it's just demonstrated in front of thousands of people. But again, it's a big controversy of like who was in the air first. Was it this Hindu dude or was it the Wright brothers? But again, the shape of this plane didn't look like it would be able to fly at all because it looks just like a flying
Boat.
spaceship. Yeah, or a
Yeah.
boat. Yeah.
Yeah. But then
So
they tested it.
yeah, it's got the aerodynamics and
Mm-hmm. And it has enough to, I guess, create like lift. Like, I
mhm.
think that's what was it? Uh, Travis Taylor
Yes.
did with
Hmm.
he actually went and they tested like a 3D printed version
Yes.
of it
And
and
put it like
in
through a
like a
wind
wind
tunnel.
tunnel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
It was crazy. It was,
Yeah.
he was like, yeah, he was like, I'm even blown away. He's like, I wouldn't think that this is an aerodynamic looking vehicle, but it is. And the test proved that it actually gave lift. Like,
Yeah.
so, and this is
Amazing.
insane.
Amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
That's
these people,
another place that's fascinating too is Skinwalker Ranch.
it is. Yes, it is. Very
You guys, have
mysterious.
you talked about that a lot?
Oh, we have. Oh, yeah. My co-host Chrissy is a big Skinwalker Ranch girl. She's all about that. But yeah, no,
Yeah.
it's very mysterious. I love that the fact that it's been around since the Native Americans, and they're the ones that kind of set that thing off into the wild.
They did, but
Yeah.
I don't, I mean, what they've caught like on the show and stuff, I think from even before the show started, I think I was, I would tell my husband all the time, I was like, it's a portal. It's a portal.
Mhm.
It's just a portal explains everything about it.
Sure.
Like, and now that they're starting to like actually catch, I think this last season, they were actually able to catch that it looked like they were inside like this portal to say there's like these they did like the lidar scanning like the lidar maps and they had this humongous like it was just like all these like walls of that were like sort of in motion you could see how it was like move like
Yeah.
it's like if you took I don't know how to describe it like out in space or something when there's a dot and it moves and it creates like a streak that's
Hmm.
why there's like this streak of like something that they couldn't see. And even they're like, it looks like we're standing in the middle of something. And I think that was in the triangle area.
Yeah. And I
But
think it's totally interdimensional, like parallel universes that are just this is a hotspot where shit's popping off, or it's called like maybe a vortex, or
same
yeah,
thing. Yeah.
yeah,
Portal,
just
vortex, same.
something. Holy shit, man! I have no, yeah. Again, I heard wasn't that one guy there too, like was getting hurt for his brain was getting
Yes.
separated from
Yeah.
his skull or something like that. He's
Yeah.
getting sick. That is gnarly.
Yeah. Yeah. I think he was like, there's like, I guess, some radiation that was I know it affected like Travis got a little radiation burn or something, but they were saying something about they would say that like the ranch knows, like the ranch knows, like it's like it has a mind of its own. It has like they refer to it like it's like it's an entity, like it has its
Whoa.
own like presence to it.
Like
It's
knows
crazy.
exactly, like knows your profile right when you get onto the ranch.
And we did an interview with I'm trying to remember his last name too. His name is first name is Mark. I'd have to but he was one of they call him Mr. Paranormal. He was the one who did all of the all he was the one who produced like all of the like Ghost Hunters. He did Skinwalker. He directed a full season of Skinwalker Ranch. We had him on our show and he was talking like, man, like what he has shared about like Skinwalker and just his experiences there is just like mind blowing. He said it was really creepy, weird when he walked onto the ranch for the first time, and he said that it was like he said it was um like so quiet. Like he said you just walked and it was just like there was no sound. There was like no animals. There was like it was just like dead quiet silence. Like and he was like, this is not what I imagined it would be. But he said there's like so many things. I was like, tell more, and he's like, well, there's only so much I can say because we're probably gonna, well, we don't know how much they'll like pull out and release at different times. And so, with non-disclosures, they can only say so much, which I'm almost like, oh, tell me more. I want to know.
That's funny.
But yeah, it's crazy. And that's where I think like I know that on Skinwalker there's like the homestead areas that kind of have had paranormal activity with like ghosts and orbs and things. And so I'm kind of like, well, what does that have to do like with UFOs and actually seeing like this, skinwalker per se that's like, can change forms. Um, as like the Native Americans would say. Um, but like I think that there are so many like parallels between them all that you have to say like, well, what could be like the common denominator that allows like for paranormal activity to happen, for UFO activity to happen, for cryptid activity to happen. And it's just kind of like the only thing that makes sense is if there's something interdimensionally happening that allows a gateway for those things to come and go. And
Yeah.
I think that's what when we're talking to we've talked to quite a number of people with I'm trying to think. There's been so many, but it's like people are all that you're starting to see that people are saying the same things within the within like those who are into UFOs and those who are into like ghost part of paranormal. It's kind of like we're all sort of heading into the same direction, and you're seeing like a common like thoughts and uh
Curiosity of trying to figure out where we came from or why we have these
yeah,
mysterious things from UFOs to ghost, Bigfoot, and everything in between.
yeah, it's definitely true. And I mean like you kind of harken to like stone tape theory. They also
Yeah.
call it like place memory.
Yeah.
um and it can be like what we kind of have like this whole amongst our team where we've talked about it with other paranormal podcasts with different investigators, and we're like, do you feel like the experience of like the ghost of the phenomenon that's happening, do you think it's tied to the building or do you think it's something more? And I think that the consensus that we've seen, um, and what we feel like too is that it's more tied to the land than like to
Mm-hmm.
the building so much.
Sure. Sure.
It's like there might be something within the land that either stores or amplifies the energy. So,
I definitely believe that. I think this
huh?
Wisconsin
Yeah.
here too has something here that attracts UFOs and weird phenomenon. I was gonna tell you, we have like here in Wisconsin, we have a little skinwalker ranch. I'm gonna put some pictures up. So this guy, his name is Bob, and he claims that UFOs have been hovering and landing on his property and having you aliens going around in his cornfield, walking around and shit. And he swears by
Is
it.
that like the movie Signs?
Yeah, so he built this gigantic landing port or to attract them, more or less, like trying to make them feel comfortable by having a satellite and cable and George Foreman grill up there. And yeah, he
No
takes people on
shit.
tours on his property and tells his stories of sightings he's been having. So yeah, he has people come his directions, people go
It's
there.
Tohawk Welding. Is that the name of it?
I think it might be like a street. It's a tiny town, Poland, Wisconsin, near Green Bay.
Okay. And his name is Bob.
Yeah. And then this place is in Dundee. It's a UFO headquarters, and this place is awesome. It's a bar that's kind of like it's kind of like the X Files, straight up. It's just nothing but Alien shit everywhere, old news clippings and stuff like that. And he had his own photo album that he like took himself of UFOs flying over Long Lake. Um, I went there and talked to the owner, and he showed me his photograph collection. It's pretty neat. This is Bill. This is him. He died actually last year.
Aw,
Sadly, he is the one who's doing the UFO days parade. The UFOs dressing up like cars, like UFOs and stuff like that.
wow.
And then
Oh,
we
that's
have the
sad.
famous story of Joe Simonton,
Okay.
1961. I don't know if you know this story.
Yep.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Tell it anyway. I know
I'll
it
tell
though.
her. So he
Oh,
was in his kitchen eating lunch or breakfast, and he just happened to see a silver UFO come down and land on his driveway. And he's like, "What the fuck is this?" He runs out and he sees this latch door open, and this like human like man comes stepping out looking like an Italian. He had like olive skin, 5 foot tall, wearing a tight blue jumpsuit, holding like an empty jug, motioning for something to drink. He's trying to get something going as a conversation, but it was dead silent. He had really penetrating eyes where Joe couldn't really look at the dude straight in the face. So he had went and fetched some water for the ET and came back and noticed there was two other aliens just like him uh, in the craft over this flat flameless grill cooking these like pancakes he's holding in his hand. And he exchanged for the water, got four of these pancakes. He was still trying to get a conversation going, saying, "Do you want me to eat this? What is this?" He took a bite of one of them, said, "Tastes like a piece of cardboard." And yeah, he's just like so blown away where he's like, he called the authorities and he had these things tested by scientists. And they found out they were regular buckwheat pancakes, but did not have any trace of salt. And that is impossible because everything organic on Earth has a trace of salt on it because of this of the oceans. So the fact that this could have been made off planet and doesn't mean that buckwheat could have been grown on a different planet because there's trees. We're always looking for trees and water on other planets. So maybe
interesting.
some
Oh my
other
gosh.
elements and stuff like that are not found on other planets, like
Did
maybe
he
salt.
still like have them? Like,
Boy,
does
this
he
dude's
still
way
have?
dead.
Yeah.
uh, yeah, I'm pretty sure it's someone in the UFO community has it. Maybe a UFO
It'd be
researcher.
interesting to see if it's like what it looks like today, or
Yeah, right.
if
Turn
it's
into a
still
cornflake.
around, or if it's like disintegrated, or I don't
Yeah,
know.
right. And then Hobbs Wilson here had a famous sighting of this like marshmallow looking UFO that landed on his property. And this is in Elmwood. And
Marsh.
well, it looks like a marshmallow, doesn't
It does.
it? But no, he had this sighting on his property. He got pretty close to it and it shot up into the sky. And he's just known for one of the people who have like one of the plaques on the property of out in Elmwood. Like again, like the whole town is
Hot
littered with
spot.
like these like signs.
Wow.
And I had to show you a little of what
A
Wisconsin's got
little
to offer.
Wisconsin.
Yeah,
Yeah. That's amazing.
yeah,
I
isn't
didn't
it?
even think, yeah. I didn't think like Wisconsin was that much of a hot spot, but
Oh, it's a hot spot. I'm guessing there's like a. I'm guessing the Great Lakes maybe it has something to do with it because they've been finding monoliths on the bottom of Rock Lake with like mammoths carved into them. We have Rock Lake too, um, here in Wisconsin that has 10 pyramids on the bottom of that. Frank Joseph wrote two books about the pyramids of Rock Lake, and 5 miles away from that is Aztalan, and we have land pyramids. I could probably show you that really quick. And these are beautiful. I go here a lot and take people there. They're huge, they're gigantic, and they thought, well, especially the early people who thought when they saw these things for the first time that the Aztec migrated all the way north from
I
the
was
south
wondering
all the
if
way
that's
north
why they called it like Azteca or whatever.
as to land. Look how
Aztec.
tiny these people are compared to the pyramid, the step pyramid.
Yeah.
So
It
this,
does look like a South American
and that's just one. There's
pyramid.
two pyramids here. This is the pyramid of the sun, and then this is the pyramid of the moon. It's just the one stair pyramid.
Yeah. It's very much like it is in South America, right?
The natives in the area in the ancient times talk about these people came from afar with different clothing and practice elongating skulls and practice cannibalism. They waged war with other neighboring Indians. And then the most mysterious part about this place that they just one day dropped everything and disappeared out of thin air. There was no sign of sickness or war. They left all this pottery. There's still the UW takes students here and does digs and still digging up bones and pottery and arrowheads and crazy shit here.
And they
And
just
like,
disappeared.
yeah, there's a sign that just said it's super mysterious. Don't know why they had like all this fresh food with the river right behind the
Hmm.
town or the village. They have like this little mini museum of stuff they've found there. They found mammoth bones. And then again, we don't learn this shit in high school. And
No.
this is right in my backyard. Like this is like 25, 30 minutes away from Madison. So it's like, what? So I've been going there a lot since I like known about it. Like this is so cool. This because it's so fucking mysterious too at the same time. And people are writing books about it and have different theories. And um, yeah.
Yeah.
Do you
But
have
they don't teach any of that in
no,
schools at all. They
no.
don't teach like really what history could be. Like, let's think outside of the box. Why do we have to be so, you know,
Yes,
put in
structured.
it? I think because that's where, I mean, that's where I think, I started like, my whole love of all this, I think I know I did like probably seventh grade or something like that. I did like a report on the Nazca lines.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
And it's like you can only see them from the sky. Like, why would they? There was no like flight back then. They were they were
No, you're
all on the
exactly right.
ground. Like, who are they trying to, why would they make the go through the effort of doing these geoglyphs that are you can only see from the sky? It's
You're
like unless you were trying to communicate with something that was in the air.
Yeah, no,
So,
you're exactly right. And we have something like that here in Wisconsin. We have this gigantic man mound, but in my eyes, that looks like a fucking astronaut. The legs actually got cut off during the 1920s when they were making roads, and they realized, oop, that's a fucking Indian mound. There were four other ones just like that. They got destroyed, sadly, during the making of uh, Wisconsin, obviously. Um, but yeah, again, they made this to
that's
be
freaking
seen
cool.
from the sky
Yeah.
to entice this powerful god. And they even say they're representing a powerful god. What the fuck? I'm like, what powerful guy that looks like that?
Yeah. Well, I mean, like if you were to think, if you're like native back then and they have maybe
That looks
these
like an astronaut to
astronauts,
me.
yeah, came down from the sky, wouldn't you say, oh my gosh, this is an all-powerful being? Like, you're like, fuck
Yeah.
yeah. I'll
Well,
worship you.
again, I'm just saying like the Nazca lines were meant to be seen from the sky, and they're trying to entice something that they witnessed a long
Right.
time ago. And
100%.
it goes back to the you ever heard of the Band of Holes in Peru?
Yes.
And that's where the natives talk about this thing came from the sky and started rolling around on Earth, picking up just raw materials on the ground, just testing whatever it was. And it went to straight line and it just
Hmm.
dipped off into the sky. And the natives were like, whoa, let's see if we can entice that thing to come back by making these lines go helter skelter through the desert and shit. And then like the priests were like, well, we gotta show them that we're more intelligent by making animal shapes now and man-made shapes of like them waving in the sky, like
Yeah.
come back. You know what I'm
Hi.
saying? Like we're here. We understood you
We've got a
came.
whale and we've got a hummingbird and we've got
Exactly. I
yeah.
think that's again start of the cargo cult. I always got to bring up the cargo cult just to bring it up to people's minds and get it synced in that how all religion around the world has their start in cargo cults. And like, I love that. I don't know if you heard about the story in, um, sorry, Brazil in the jungle, the Kayapo Indians. You ever heard of them?
No.
So they have a yearly celebration of talking about this star um, teacher that came down from smoke and fire and landed on top of the mountain peak, and it came in down to their village. And this thing looked like the Michelin Man. You know what I'm saying? The stacked up tires,
Hmm.
like super bulbous. And he had a glass helmet and he had a white beard. And he comes, jolly in. And then all the brave Indians there started trying to fight him by throwing spears and arrows at him. And they are they just kind of like turn into dust when it hits his clothes. And he starts to laugh. And he had a weapon himself and he points it at a tree and it explodes. And then all the Indians kind of ran into the bush. And then this thing stood in their village for days, just stood there like a statue. And then some other brave Indians went and gave it some food in front of its feet, and it started speaking their language. They're like, "Whoa, how do you know our language?" And he's like, "Well, I had to listen to you guys in the bush, figure out what the fuck you're gonna do with me, blah blah blah." And they're just more blown away. And he's like, "Yeah, I'm just basically taught him agriculture, mathematics, and these people were drinking out of the same water hole as the animals. He taught them how to hunt and taught them how to like just tons of different things to survive in the jungle, basically." And he married one of the wives, one of the village women there, stayed with them for years, and then he said, "I gotta go." Yeah, and he's like, "I promise one day to return." They went off to the sky, blew off a fire and smoke, and they had a school named after him, Beb Karoti. And the school still exists today. And today they still practice this ceremony of once a year. One of the guys is in the village is dressed up like Beb Karoti in the straw bulbous suit, looks like an astronaut straight up. And then they had the village women doing a circle around him, singing the song of him coming down from the mountaintop from the fire and smoke, and teaching them agriculture and just beautiful poetic stories that are all around the world. Same
Yep.
thing. These
Yep.
the fire chariots, the flying vimanas,
Hmm.
everything. Just everything. Are you
I
kidding me?
mean, Egypt too.
Egypt, everything. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
Uh uh
Egypt had like,
Ancient
their
Sumerians.
Osiris had like the green skin, and
Yeah.
yeah, it's and all the different like, they had like different heads to them that were like animal heads, and
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
like it's like
Duh.
so yeah.
It's like, did you shit me?
Yeah. It's like all common denominator stuff. It's like, well, what do they say? Occam's razor. What's the simplest explanation? Is probably what rings true. You're like, well, take a look at everything, and if you see, see like that pattern there, like, hello.
Yeah. Yeah. And just the same stories, just the names are a little bit different. But yeah, again, just why don't we see that more of a scientific way of thinking? We can go at it with like, I don't know. I just hate how it just gets mythanized and like how I think people who, especially, I think we lost how it really was and like what their teachings were by like just them being gone for so long. And then man was like trying their, like I said, like the Nazca Lions, like the priests there were saying, yeah, now we got to make animal shapes and show them. And then it's like men started structuring the religion of what was brought from the gods in the first place. And it's because it's been so long that they've been gone, you know what I'm saying? Where it's like, okay, now we have a priest rapist now.
Oh God.
Yeah. Like, what the fuck are we doing now?
I know. Well, that's because the church got like,
And we got Diddy parties.
yeah. Yeah, exactly. Well,
Yeah.
like the church got like way too much, like became more powerful with money,
Yeah.
became
I'm
like
pretty sure a
the root of
priest
all
was at a
evil.
Diddy's party.
I
My
am
God.
sure. He was like, I go ahead, I give you permission.
Yeah.
Dear God.
Yeah. That is
Wow.
so gnarly, isn't it? And then there's a
Yeah.
theory too where like I just heard this too that the fact that P. Diddy is now being convicted, maybe he started something, the arson in Hollywood, because all those people who had all that dirt on them, you know what I'm
Whoa,
saying? Or
whoa.
maybe he had more
That's
dirt.
down
I
the
had no,
rabbit hole,
I
huh?
know that's totally down the rabbit hole, but the fact that there's a lot of crazy arson too, I heard this because people who are just, trying to keep up with the chaos. People like the dude, and then all the looting and that crazy shit. I don't know, man. It's so gnarly. And I thought I heard some UFO sightings too. I heard.
Oh, there was. Yeah. I actually saw I think my husband and I saw it like on, I don't know, somewhere on TikTok or
Mhm.
Facebook or something like that, where they actually had the video. And you could like, replay it over and over and
Yeah.
you see this just object and it's going, I think they actually like measured how fast it would, like by the time it got from one side of the frame to off the camera where you couldn't see it anymore. And they said that had to be going like 5,600 miles per hour
Holy
to
shit.
get, because it went from where you saw it to off screen in like a second and like a second and a half. So they were like, yeah, they calculated that's how fast it was going. And then they also did like the length of it by comparing to like another building that was on the ground that they knew the actual size of that building. And
Mm.
so they said it was like uh the building was like I think they said it was like 180 square feet or something like that. And so they said this object was like double that.
Wow.
So it's pretty darn big.
Yeah.
And you see, I mean, it's clear that there's something there. What it is like,
Yeah.
okay, well, don't know, but it's weird because
Yeah.
it's
Well,
up there with all the smoke and everything from the fires and
yes. Well, I think UFOs like to show up during disasters and wartime. Like
mhm.
that's the big time they usually like to poke their
Yeah, they
nose and see what's
weren't
up.
they like when uh what was that in Japan when it had the tsunami and they were at the Fukushima
Oh yeah, I did
plant
see that.
started to melt down,
Yeah.
like, and it was going to go, like, radiation was going to get
Hmm.
leaked out everywhere. And they were tons of UFOs were seen around the area at that time. And they even said some of them were like shooting like a beam down,
Oh
like they
shit.
were trying to help so that
Huh.
it wouldn't like melt down
Right.
and destroy the whole, like the whole area,
That'd be
make
nice
it
if more UFOs
inhabitable.
would save the day, right? They
Well,
could totally
yeah,
stop that
hey,
fire.
exactly.
My God.
Well, like, help us.
No,
Something.
there's too many religious people out there. That's why it went down in flames. I don't
Mhm. That's true.
No, it's gonna be yeah, there's a lot of theories already popping off of how this fire even started. And like it is like the perfect storm to have the multiple winds every day to be blowing
Like
just right
Santa
to keep
Ana
the
wind.
holy
Mm,
Christ, right? Like what the fuck?
mm, I
And
know.
then some houses is one you see that one dude house they got saved or out of all of the houses around it just it was just toast. And he's just just
Perfectly fine.
yeah, perfectly fine.
Yeah, that's kind of like when you see like the tornadoes where it's like, okay, one neighbor's completely like house not touched. The next neighbor gone.
Gone.
There's like nothing
Totally
there. You're
gone.
like, I've seen it like firsthand out here, like, which I never thought I'd ever see or live through, like, but we've had out here with like tornadoes and stuff. And then, like one happened in Mount Juliet, which was kind of in
Was
the
that that flood, wasn't it? Or that
no, it was a tornado that came through and like it destroyed. You could see where like the path where it was like came down, destroyed some houses, came down to like cross like the road and then went to the school and like took out the corner of the school building and then just kept going. But it's like nuts.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they gotta find an answer. And the ocean water, like they can maybe that would corrode some of the equipment they would be using to put out the fires because of the salt water. But I was thinking, it's like, yeah, you have water right there too. And they're saying some of the fire hydrants uh
Yeah, they
were
like
off.
lost pressure and
Yeah.
I don't
That sounds
know.
scary, man. I don't know. I feel sorry for all the animals. I'm an animal lover, so I can
Yeah,
only imagine all
I'd be
those
the same.
poor babies. Oh my God.
Yeah,
Oh shit.
because they just don't know like we know,
Right.
but
I feel like the only
they might have a
weather
sixth
that
sense.
animals can really sense is tsunamis. And you see animals running uphill like hours before it comes, some shit is about to pop.
It's probably because they can hear it. I don't know.
Yeah, or sense it in their
Sense it.
bones. Yeah.
Yeah,
Like,
something
or does
something
it
changed.
or does like cows know when it's about to rain when they sit down or something like that? Is that another?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think like even like I've noticed it like my dog when there's like some weird weather that's predicted or something, she'll be outside and she'll just be like sniffing the air and you're
Mm.
like she knows that there's something different. Like she's like, okay, something's coming.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
dogs definitely have a different sense. I guess a
Yeah.
lot of animals have a lot of like higher vibration of thought that like, especially like dolphins and whales, like they can like use sonar and
Hmm.
use, um, I don't know, just I think they use more of their brain than we do, obviously, to use that part of their brain to do that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's pretty intense.
Well, they say that like cats and dogs seem to see ghosts
Yes, yes.
because
Mhm.
all of a sudden they'll like be barking at nothing or like cats will be weird and they'll be staring at something at like the top of the ceiling like they're interacting with something. You're like,
Yeah.
well,
Well, I
what are
think
you
cats are
doing?
more mysterious than anything too, because they have slit eyes, and that's very rare in the animal kingdom because they don't share that with their relatives or their ancestors. And they hiss like snakes.
Yeah.
And you wonder why the Egyptians worshiped them, or why even like the witches kept them around for
Yes.
harnessing their energy or bad energy. Um,
Yeah. Had them
yeah,
as a
very
familiar.
mystical, or no, like that could be like an alien breed thing that's like, yeah, you're gonna stick around humans because you are somewhat special and see different dimensions and shit. You ever heard of like Iceland? What's going on in Iceland? Like the phenomenon in Iceland?
No.
Oh my shit. Let me tell you.
Spill the
I was,
tea.
oh my, I was mind blown. I had a guest on here and she's a native to Iceland and she's really cool. She has half her face tatted up of
Oh
like
wow.
traditional Viking tattooing. Awesome, really knows her shit. But yeah, her homeland in Iceland, more than half the population and the government believes that elves live on the outskirts of Iceland, like interdimensional, and actually been in human contact for thousands of years. Kind of like so Iceland can't build roads or move rocks without getting the permission from the elves. I'm not shitting you. The government takes this dead
That's
serious
great.
because there's incidents of people who like broken this law or like didn't do what they do or had communication with the elves beforehand. They have died, have gotten sick. They broken machinery that's supposed to help break these, build the roads and other weird shit. Or they move these rocks back to certain spots where these rocks are sacred to these elves. And
Yeah.
they even tell tourists, don't throw rocks in Iceland because you might hit one of these elves and they will fucking kidnap your ass and tie you to a tree and throw rocks at your ass. Not like I'm like, there's no way. I'm dead serious. This is what we tell the tourists who come into town and not knowing or feel foolish. And she said there's modern day sexual relationships with these elves, with humans on ice in Iceland. So some of these people will go into this interdimensional world of theirs. And these elves are described more like the elves of Lord of the Rings, like straight up
Okay.
clean
Yeah,
cut,
people
blonde, it's like just light on the
almost
feet. You
like
know what
the
I'm saying?
Nordic people, like the
Yes,
Nordic
just like that.
aliens.
Just
Yeah.
yeah. She said she was describing to me like, what? And she was showing me some pictures of like some of the elf churches they had there, and some of like the stones are shaped kind of like pyramids. And yeah, so I don't know if the government has to like take a message in a bottle and set it near the rocks over there. I don't know how that works. Like,
I don't know
and
how
then
that
like,
works either.
and then like they would get a response. I don't know if
Oh
it's
my
written
God.
response or it's an email. Like,
Yeah. Oh my God.
so yeah, like you'll get a response like, okay, yeah, you can go on that. You can make that road, or you can move that rock only a certain feet away. You can't move it somewhere far. Like has
Yeah.
like instructions. I'm like,
It's
this is
crazy.
wild. And like I was saying, I was like, maybe I was asking about the mermaids too. I was like, I think that might be a hot spot because it's an island, and the fact that you have these interdimensional elves,
Hmm.
why wouldn't like the mermaids be a curiosity? And then, yeah, there's a bunch of sightings and interactions with mermaids around
Oh my
Iceland too.
God.
Like, holy fuck nut. But the fact that these people, more than half the population and the government, take it dead serious about these elves and they
That's
respect them
crazy.
enough to ask permission. Like, what is this world? And
Yeah.
then, like, I
Might
was
have to
so
go
blown
check
away
that
that
out
we're,
some.
yeah, seriously, just go Google, yeah, Iceland elves and interaction with humans. You'd be blown away. Like, what the
I'm
fuck? Yeah, you see,
gonna
like,
go down the elf rabbit hole.
yeah, I think there's a good YouTube video about like the history of the elves and some of the deaths and people who get sick of people who disobeyed or didn't listen to the elves. Yeah, just like what?
That's
The
that's like here with the
non-believers.
Blair Witch too. I
They'll
don't know if
throw
you ever
rocks in Iceland.
I don't know if you ever heard of the Bell Witch, but there was like a movie and everything, but
Mm.
she's here in Adams, Tennessee, and
Oh.
one of the things they say there is because she put a curse, and there's like this cave that she was in, and they tell people like don't take the rocks from the cave,
Mm.
that bad things will happen,
Sure,
and
sure.
people do it anyway. They just take a rock and they think nothing's going to happen, and they said like Jen, who is like my like we're the two that co-lead the team, our paranormal team.
Hmm.
And she went there and she was in like the gift shop area of um of the Bell Witch, and the lady back there was taking a call from somebody who called in, and the other side of the conversation that she heard was like, yes, of course you can mail it back, we understand. And then she got off the phone and she was like, yep, it's just another tourist who took a rock and now has to mail it back to us because they've been having nothing but bad luck and bad things happen to them since they took
Wow.
the rock. And she's
Yeah,
like, nobody
it's like a
listens.
yeah, it's like a tag along that you're taking with you, like that bad energy
Whew,
tag
I'm
along
gonna
shit.
turn off my heater real quick here. I'm dying.
Sure.
I'm roasting. It was like cold, but ooh, I'm like dying. I was like, oh.
You were
Oh,
just
thing is,
blushing.
I know.
That's good.
My cheeks are all rosy now.
No. Yeah, again, it's very mysterious. And like that too, what you just said, that's pretty gnarly. And that's
Yeah,
something like someone, yeah, enough energy to go into that certain rocks. There's kind of this stone tape theory. It could be like broken into certain rocks and you're just taking that with you.
right. Or she
Weird.
put supposedly the witch put the curse
Mm.
on that cave, but and I mean, like there's still the people who originally that the Bell family that the witch put a curse on. Well, I think she had every right to do what she did because they tried to take her land from her because she was a single woman and she, had a bunch of land, and she did a lot of like, midwifery, herbalist kind of stuff. So of course she was labeled as a witch, and that wasn't the case. But they were like the wealthy men in the area decided they wanted her land, and so they were just going to take it from her. And she basically said, I'm going to curse you and your whole family. And it seemed to have come true. A lot of that, like I think a lot of the John Bell's family ended up dying. They actually said that it was the only time that like a paranormal entity has ever killed someone has been in the Bell Witch um
Shit.
circumstance. So yeah, it's
Shit.
even President, I guess, Andrew Jackson, he was said he was visited by the Bell Witch. So
Dang.
it's kind of like, yeah. And so that like the in Adams, Tennessee, they still have like they have where you can go on and do an investigation there. They have where they'll do like around like Halloween time, they do a huge play that is all about the story of the Bell Witch.
Oh,
So,
cool.
and a lot of those family members of the Bell family and of the Bell Witch, I forget what her name is, but she, her family descendants still live in that area. So it's kind of crazy that, and of course, they're like still sort of follow those lines of like, the Bell family thinks it's her, and her descendants think it's them, and it's kind of
Vice
like the
versa. Yeah.
Hatfield and McCoys. Like there's still like this feud that's gone on,
That's crazy.
through several hundred years with history. But yeah, I don't know. There's that I wholeheartedly believe in those kind of things, and like whatever your intention that you put out there is what you get
Yeah.
back. And that's like a lot of what we believe too when we go into investigate like a paranormal location. We always walk in there making sure that our intentions are, we're like, we know what they are, that they're good, and that we want to just communicate with something, what's ever there, that's positive. And then we always protect ourselves with certain, like we'll wear like certain stones and things to protect ourselves. And
Sure.
then,
Sure.
we always like, explain like we always go in there introducing ourselves and saying we're here just to just have a conversation with you. We're not trying to get rid of you. We're not trying to harm you. We just want to hear your story, and we seem to be like, it seems like that seems to work. Like
Yeah.
for whatever
Well,
reason.
if I was a ghost, I'd feel invited for that conversation. Yeah.
Yeah,
All
right?
right. She seems like she
Right.
wants to listen.
Yeah, exactly. That's what like the whole thing is about, right? It's
Sure.
about
The
respecting.
respect. Yeah.
Like
Hmm.
you respect the history, you respect like the energy that's there, and you just have like this hope that they're gonna reciprocate and, you know, hopefully give you some evidence you can take with you besides your
Sure.
experiences.
Sure. And
And
do you
then
find
there's
that like some areas too, being a female, like you get more reaction to ghosts? Like I say, maybe like battleships or like a war area where women are not found or not wanted to be, so we're like, hey, this is not your barracks. Women
well,
are
there's
allowed down here.
there's been like we went to it's now kind of like in sort of way east Tennessee. But there's a place that was called oh my gosh, why am I drawing a blank on it? It's an old jail. It's
Okay.
and they had like this one, so they had like one level was where like women prisoners were, and like the top floor was like they had men and they had maximum security up there. And when we first went up into the to that area, when we were just getting like the tour from the person who kind of runs there now, um and she was just like, I walked into this space, and I could feel like you just get this energy like you're not wanted, like you're not supposed to be there. And I just asked her, I just said like, I was like, do does like women have a problem in this space? And
Mm.
she was like, yep. And I was like, I feel like people get their hair pulled, like,
Sure.
and she was like, yeah, it's absolutely the claims and stuff. And that's just the way that, I don't know, the energy felt that way. That's the only
Yeah.
way I could describe it. And I just felt like I'm not wanted here. And I was like, oh, I don't feel comfortable being in that space because something is like, you just say that there's that energy. Just like when you walk into a room full of people, if they're talking about you and you walk in there
Yeah.
and you're like, oh man, they're talking about me. I know it, it's that same sort of feel that I like felt in the jail there. And so we've
Wow.
had that, and I had that at Brushy at the state penitentiary. We went down to this one area that was called the Hole. And the funny story is it's now become an inside joke because it's just like too funny to be true, but it really is. We went down there and there's like these three cells that are literally like you have to go down to the sort of this basement area. And it's
Hmm.
like these dank, dark, musty cells. And they used to keep, prisoners who misbehaved went to the hole.
Hmm.
And we had like an investigator in each of the cells, and then there was a guy who was filming them, and then I stood behind him, and I was kind of watching and listening. And then there were some other investigators that were in a different part outside of that area, kind of where the guards would be. And all of a sudden in there, I felt like I got touched, like right on my butt.
Oh, dang.
It's and so the story is that's the story is we always say like, and I ran out of there. I didn't run out of there, but I walked out of there going, I went, nope, 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 nope. and and my partner Jen, she was like, what happened? What happened? Because she knows that I'm not like that. And I was like, something touched me on the butt. Like, no, 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 I don't give it permission. And
I give
and
it.
so she was like, "Oh, you got touched on the butt in the hole." And I was like, "But not the butthole." So now
That's pretty good.
that's our story.
That is pretty good.
I know.
And
I was like, I can't make this up.
he was a pervy ghost.
I know. Well, you would think if it was only a men's prison, so I don't know. It just makes sense that that would be the case.
Yeah. Hmm. That is so cool. And
Yeah.
it's so cool that you had so many experiences. And then you seem like you have so many stories and a lot to share still. But
Oh
hey, I
my
think
God.
we're
Yeah.
uh we're a
Yeah.
little bit
We've
over an
gone over.
hour there, but hey, I think that was great. I'd love to have you back on.
Oh,
And
I'd love to come on again.
maybe be on your show in the future. That'd be
Yes, yes,
great.
we'd love to have you.
That'd be great. Yeah, why don't you tell my audience where they can find you and if
Yeah,
there's anything else that you want to share? Yeah.
yeah. So, well, we are called Sinister Sisters Paranormal. We can be found on Facebook, Instagram, and that's our Gmail too, is Sinister Sis Paranormal at gmail.com. And we also have a website, which is Sinister Sisters Paranormal. So it's easy. It's
Sweet.
easy. You just have to look up those two words, Sinister Sisters, and then paranormal. You'll find us everywhere.
Nice. And where can they find your podcast?
Podcast we're on YouTube, which is we were on Rumble first, and so we're kind of like going, I guess, back to YouTube too. So we're
Okay.
both on both platforms, which is the podcast is called The Know, the that's, the, and then
No. Yes.
KNOW, like,
Yeah. Then no.
yeah, in the know, you're in the
In and
know.
no.
Just like that. Yep. And
Cool.
so, I mean, we talk about all sorts of things like, obviously UFOs and paranormal, but we also have we have musicians on there. Like we had the drummer from Blue Oyster Cult came on, the drummer from Dawkins,
Oh, cool.
so we have musicians. We had from one of the guys who was on Casey and the Sunshine Band, like from back in the day. And then we've got some upcoming really cool guests too. We've got from coming for some upcoming shows in the paranormal realm. We have Brandon Alvis coming on. He's on Haunted Discoveries now.
Oh, cool.
So he's coming up, and also Larissa, and she's got a show that's going to be airing soon with Santiago Cirillo, who was on The Walking Dead. They're
Oh,
going to be in a show that's called 24 Hours in Hell.
ooh,
So where they actually spend like 24 hours locked in Hell House.
ooh,
So
damn.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
exciting.
yeah. So they're going to be coming on actually this month and like the last week of the month. So I'm
That's so
excited,
cool.
but it's
That's
like my wheelhouse. I'm like, oh, like let's talk paranormal.
well, again, I'd love to have you back on because my co-host Chrissy is a ghost
I
hunter
know.
herself, and she has like a little team out in New York, and she goes into a lot of crazy hot spots and old abandoned buildings and old jailhouses and stuff like that.
Wicked cool. I know she had messaged and said, "Oh, I'm so bummed that I'm
Yeah,
missing
she
you."
was bummed out. She's like, "Damn, she seems super cool." I'm like, "Yeah, I could do much better."
Yeah,
No, she's really cool, and she's very dedicated to the paranormal and just
love
the
it.
love the love of the culture and stuff like that. So yeah, I'd love to schedule another one with you in the future with her because I think it'd be
Yeah,
a fun duo. Or
absolutely. I'm
maybe in the
down.
future too, we like to get big group talks with people in the same field, and then I think it's just a good way to network with each other, and then you end up being best friends with each other and whatnot, and like, oh my
Love it.
god, we're in the same area, let's definitely hang out, you
I know.
know.
Let's go investigate together.
Yeah, what the fuck. Let's build this team up. But
Yeah,
no,
exactly.
I've been getting nothing but good, and I've been like, yeah, just especially with Chrissy, she's just like, I've been introducing her to a lot of cool people and girls that in the same field, and she's just like in her free time talking to these people. I'm like, yeah, you're making friends. And like I I think this podcast is a great way to make friends and people
Absolutely.
like-minded people and to network with each
100%.
other and kind of piggyback each other's fan base and stuff like that. I think is
It-
where it's at. So
Yep.
cool.
Yeah, I can agree 100% on that.
Awesome. Well, sweet. Hey, can you stay with me for 2 more minutes?
Yeah,
Sweet.
absolutely.